You are watching Beyond the News. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something that's a bit heavier than our usual fare.
Right.
We're going to be taking a look at an anonymous letter that we received that details a really difficult relationship between a woman and her uncle.
Oh, wow.
And as always, we want to approach this with sensitivity and respect for the person
Of course.
who wrote this letter.
Yeah, this is just one person's story, and we're going to try to handle it carefully.
Right. And even though it's just one story, it speaks to a lot of bigger issues that we see in society.
Yeah.
So why don't we just dive right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the letter starts with the writer describing the first time she met her uncle. She didn't even know that he existed until her mom actually sent her over to his workplace to meet him.
Wow.
And you can almost feel the shock in her words as she's describing this, because she walks into this place and she finds out that this really friendly guy downstairs is actually the uncle that she's there to meet.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because that seemingly harmless first encounter, that's actually a tactic that abusers often use.
Right.
It's called grooming.
Grooming.
And it's essentially where they build trust and connection. They present this kind and caring facade. But it's all to mask their true intentions.
Oh, wow.
And, this can make the victim, in this case a young girl, more vulnerable to manipulation and abuse.
And it's even more disturbing because the letter writer was only 16 at the time. 16, that's such a critical age. You're still figuring out who you are.
Absolutely.
And then to have that trust just shattered by someone who's supposed to be family.
Especially by family. Yeah, teenagers are especially vulnerable to this type of abuse. They're at a point in their lives where they're still, forming their identities,
Right.
and they crave attention and approval,
Right.
which a predator can easily exploit.
And that's exactly what happened. The letter writer describes being in his car, and he just assaults her. He touches her inappropriately, kisses her,
Oh my God.
tells her to stay calm, even says that he loves her.
Wow.
It's so difficult to read.
That's awful. And what's even more disturbing is that this wasn't an isolated incident. The abuse continued into adulthood even after he was married.
Oh, wow.
The letter writer actually describes an ongoing affair with him. And this is where the central question in the letter comes in. She says, "I am in love with him, but I hate him at the same time."
Yeah, that line really got to me too. How can you love someone who has hurt you so deeply? Like, how is that even possible?
Right. This is where we start to see the effects of something called trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding.
Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not sure that I have.
Okay, so imagine like a rope being tied between two people. With each act of abuse, that rope gets tighter and tighter, and it binds them together. It creates this really confusing mix of emotions, dependence, fear, even a twisted sense of loyalty that makes it incredibly difficult to leave the abuser.
So it's not just about love. It's about this whole web of emotions and manipulation and control.
Exactly, and it keeps the person trapped in this situation.
The letter writer herself says, "I can't explain it, but I am so attached to him, I can't let him go." That feeling of being trapped, of not having the strength to break free, that's the power of this trauma bonding.
It really is.
This letter's just heartbreaking. It makes it so clear that abuse can happen anywhere, even within families.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's something that we need to talk about more. We need to raise awareness and support those who are struggling.
Oh, sure.
It's never the victim's fault,
Yeah.
and there is help available.
Absolutely. The biggest takeaway for me, and maybe something for our listeners to think about too, is this. How do we as individuals, as a society, create an environment where people feel safe enough to come forward to seek help and to break free from these toxic relationships?
That's a really good question. It's
Yeah.
a question that we all need to grapple with.
It really is. So I think that brings us to the end of another deep dive. If you or someone you know is struggling with abuse, please reach out for help. There are resources available.
Yes, there are, and you can find some of those resources in the show notes. You're not alone.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, Hens.